Hey, we're going on a site. Yeah, sorry, no time. We've got emergency tabletop drama. So, without further ado, guys, hey, want to hear a story? So, HeroForge. HeroForge are one of the biggest premier brands in the D&D and tabletop role-playing game world. If not a fan of TTRPGs, you probably don't know who they are, so I'll give a little bit of an explainer. In tabletop games, sometimes you want little representations of your characters, and amongst the most popular are the classic miniatures. Often people just buy miniatures pre-made, but you can't customize them. These games are all about imagination. So what if you want to create your own miniatures? Well, that's where HeroForge comes in. A huge asset library of tons and tons of 3D assets that you can use to build your own miniatures for your own tabletop games. It is a very beloved platform that has been used by tens of thousands of people within this community. That's one end of the story. On the other end of the story, we have Darrington Press. Darrington Press are the publishing arm of Critical Role, by far the biggest D&D and tabletop show on both Twitch and on YouTube. They get millions upon millions of views, and Darrington Press is how they put out their own games to market. They didn't have too many hit makers, at least for a little bit, until they put out Daggerheart, their own fantasy tabletop game that seemed to be a direct competitor to the famed Dungeons and Dragons. And this Daggerheart game, guys, it did pretty well on launch. They printed a lot of Daggerheart in anticipation for the release, and it still sold out twice over. People liked this game, and while the future of Daggerheart is not entirely certain, especially as Critical Role seems to stick with Dungeons and Dragons for its live stream, I still think that Daggerheart is going to have a presence in this industry for a while. So basically, we've got two companies that are fairly well liked in this world: HeroForge and Darrington Press. You'd think that if these two companies were to combine their efforts and work together on some kind of collaboration, that people would be really excited about that. You would think that, wouldn't you? Because they did do a collaboration, and people were not excited about it. In fact, quite the opposite. It tore apart their communities and caused some of the most community outrage I've ever seen within the tabletop space. Because, you see, HeroForge and Darrington Press have decided to make their horse armor. Also, editing Crispy here. There's a happy ending, so just happy ending alert. Keep that in mind. Don't worry, I'll explain more in depth than that. This is gonna be a long story. Once again, one of the craziest community blow-ups I've seen in a while. So, without further ado, y'all, what the hell happened?
And this change has caused such widespread community backlash that many fans are canceling their paid HeroForge subscriptions in response.
And now it's not really the same anymore. Frankly, yeah, that is sad.
Okay, so Darrington Press, they've just released this Daggerheart game, right? So they go to HeroForge and say, hey, we have some new species in our Daggerheart game. You know, you got the ribbit frog people, you got the fungril mushroom people. What if somebody wants to create a frog person for their own game, or mushroom person for their own game? Well, HeroForge doesn't quite have those options yet. What if they were to collab with Darrington Press to create custom fungril options and custom ribbit options? That seems like a really good idea. And these sort of collaborations are not unseen on HeroForge. They've done some smaller scale collaborations before with shows like Dimension 20. From what I can tell, this Darrington Press one is supposed to be the biggest, but there's also one major difference between this collab and those other collabs. Those other collabs were notably free. You see, on HeroForge, the only thing to do is customize your minis. So they make sure to give those customization options. All those 3D assets, they make sure to make those as readily available as possible. And that makes sense from a business standpoint. Once again, there's nothing else to do on HeroForge. What they lock behind the premium subscription and the paywall is early access to those assets, as well as some premium website features such as kit bashing, for example. If you want that, you're paying a subscription. But if you're just a free user, you will be getting tons of HeroForge assets regardless, because without those assets, there's really nothing to do on the website. So again, it would make sense that those previous collaborations would be free of charge, just like any of their other asset drops on the site. But But this collab with Darrington Press was not free. This would be a paid DLC for HeroForge, the first of its kind. If you want these assets, you need to pay a premium for them. And you don't get them even if you're a premium subscriber. Even if you pay $50 a month to use HeroForge at the max level, you would still need to pay a flat fee in order to get access to these new Darrington Press assets. How much do these assets cost? Well, they're $8 a pack. There's 3 packs, so $24, not including tax. That seems like a lot for a handful of 3D assets. Per piece, Lego Pick-a-Brick is cheaper, and that includes shipping, dude. Like, oh my god, what are HeroForge thinking? $24 for these assets is wild. And I need to make this clear. When they announced this, I looked at these assets. They don't look bad or anything. I mean, they're the same quality as everything HeroForge has on their website. But, like, that's the problem. They're the same quality as everything else HeroForge has on their website. Like, sure, we've never gotten frog people before this extensively, or mushroom people before this extensively, but in terms of the quality of the assets themselves, it's nothing that users haven't seen before. You're paying for something that just should be in your normal subscription anyway. You're paying a huge extra premium for something that probably should just be tossed into your normal subscription. Why are we paying extra for something that's honestly kind of mundane? But the problems actually go beyond that. Because, like I said before, we haven't really gotten mushroom people or frog people before on the HeroForge website, at least not this extensively. Well, now it seems like these archetypes are now permanently going to be locked behind this paywall. Let me explain. Look, HeroForge are probably not going to create another mushroom pack anytime soon, because why would they? They want you to buy these $8 a piece asset packs, and so if they make a free mushroom pack for you to use, it would completely invalidate that purchase. They're never going to do that. So if you want to make a Last of Us type mushroom zombie, well, too bad. You're probably going to want to just pay a premium for these new assets. That really sucks. It completely locks the content off from people who want to stay free to play. A similar thing happened recently with a video game I play called Destiny. I used to play this game for thousands upon thousands of hours, but I did not pay for any of the microtransactions just because I didn't think they were worth it, and besides, many of them could be earned for free anyway. But recently, I saw that Destiny added something the community had been asking for a while. Taken armor, which basically is this dark, starry aesthetic of the Taken enemy type introduced in 2015. Understand that people have been asking to look like Taken since 2015. They've been asking for nigh on a decade, and Bungie, the developers behind Destiny, have finally put Taken armor into the game as a microtransaction. A microtransaction that, fun fact, actually costs less than these asset packs. $20 versus $24. Wild. But the point is that really sucks for Destiny players, because now it's very unlikely that we're ever going to get a free alternative for Taken armor. They're never going to introduce it because they want people to buy this asset pack. They want people to buy this premium microtransaction, and introducing a free alternative would dissuade that. Therefore, a free alternative is probably not going to happen. But at the very least, Destiny, despite all of its many current problems right now, Destiny is still a video game. You can still play it. HeroForge is not a video game. HeroForge is strictly a miniature customization platform. There's literally nothing to do here but cosmetics. The cosmetics are not some cute secondary thing that you can get if you want. No, the cosmetics are the entire point why we are here. Without them, this website is pointless. In a hypothetical future where these asset packs really take off and they're successful for HeroForge and make them tons of money, they might make more, and that would lock even more assets behind an extra paywall that, mind you, exists on top of the premium subscription that many HeroForge users are already paying. Oh my god. In that future, the only people who are going to be able to extensively use new HeroForge content that's added in these paid DLCs are whales. And frankly, that future sounds freaking nightmarish. The whole point of this website is to customize minis to be your own. And now they're locking that customization, the sole reason why this website exists, behind a pretty high paywall that, by the way, is worth half of your yearly subscription, $50 versus $24 for all the assets. So, with all that being said, that sounds pretty rough. And you can imagine that the community sentiment was, well, it was something. Today's episode is sponsored by Boot.dev, an innovative and fun way to learn back-end web development from start to finish. Look, coding is hard. I've tried it before, and I was not very good at it. But Boot.dev makes learning programming incredibly fun. It gamifies the experience and turns it into a little adventure for you to play. There's XP, levels, achievements, quests, and even community boss fights. When learning is fun, it's easier to learn. But if you don't need all of that, you don't have to pay for all that. You don't have to pay at all, in fact. All Boot.dev content is free to watch and learn. And if you do purchase the interactive premium features and don't like them, don't worry. There's a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy. Boot.dev aren't here to suck up your wallet. Put simply, they're just here to help you learn how to program. If you guys are interested, then you can head over to the description down below or to the pinned comment where you can sign up to Boot.dev. Thank you so much to Boot.dev for sponsoring today's episode. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. Without further ado, back to the tea. Yeah, the community were outraged by this, mostly on the HeroForge end. Immediately upon HeroForge making this announcement, the HeroForge library, we can download other people's HeroForge minis, it was filled with minis with just giant text in the back that said no to paid DLCs. There are tons of these little protest posts everywhere on the website. It's clear that the community is pretty dang pissed off with the idea of paying an extra premium for content they should just be getting anyway. This sort of protest posting really reminds me, by the way, of what happened on ArtStation when they announced they'd be supporting AI art. Artists there just non-stop spammed no to AI, and honestly guys, I really love this energy, hope we can keep it up. But besides that, HeroForge had other problems on their social media sites, most notably Instagram, where they were beset by hashtag #FreeTheForge, hashtag save HeroForge, tons of people demanding answers as to why this was a paid DLC. In fact, it got so rough for the HeroForge social media team that they limited and locked all the comments on their most recent posts, which, yeah, that's always a sign that things are going well on the PR end. Good job, guys. They couldn't limit and lock the comments on their subreddit, though, and that was filled with tons of posts angrily crying out and telling HeroForge to stop with DLC. So, yeah, it was rough all around for them at this point. Now, keep in mind, we've been talking a lot about HeroForge throughout this entire debacle, but HeroForge are not the only people in the crosshairs. Darrington Press are the people who collab with HeroForge for this whole scandal, and so they've also gotten a bit of pushback. r/Critical Role, the main Critical Role subreddit, had a post get pretty popular with a lot of people discussing how they're disappointed with Darrington Press for making this business decision. Though it does look like Critical Role are not facing nearly the level of backlash that HeroForge is, which makes sense. Most people who watch Critical Role probably couldn't even tell you what HeroForge is, and even if they could, they probably wouldn't care about this, even if maybe they should, just because, like, this really sucks. It does beg the question of, why did this happen? Again, this is brand new territory for HeroForge. They've never done paid DLC before, even for the limited collaborations that they've done in the past. But wait! Surprise! Editing Crispy here! We have a pretty major update, because HeroForge, they've finally put out a response. So, yeah. TLDR, HeroForge has released a response to their social media. It was reposted to their subreddit and across the internet in general, and they have walked this back. This is the biggest news from this response. They are now allowing any premium subscriber to access these items as part of their subscription, which frankly should have been what they did in the first place. But they also, in their statement, provide their reasoning as to why exactly this happened. and I do think that it is very interesting. So let's read it. First, here's how we arrived to our initial approach. Since the beginning of HeroForge, folks have been asking for all sorts of big, licensed, and branded IP parts. These requests are among the most common now that we've built such an extensive library of parts on HeroForge. The initial idea for collaborator collections was born out of wanting to offer these large brand options to our community. Yet, many of these larger brands required more than what we've offered in previous collaborations, which focused mostly on cross-promotion and just shared community excitement. For big IPs, there needs to be a benefit beyond visibility, namely a financial one. As we dug for a solution, we discovered that splitting profits on purchased miniatures wasn't viable. After a lot of conversations, the only feasible solution we could offer to these IP partners was to make the parts themselves purchasable and to share the revenue with the partner. Earlier this year, we sent out our annual HeroForge survey, which included questions on expanded IP offerings. The majority, at 68%, were between somewhat interested and very interested in an offering of IP items. So that's why. They needed the funding in order to make these collaborations possible, and based on their surveys, people were interested in these collaborations. Therefore, this happened. Now, lesson here, babes. If you are running any sort of business and want to survey your audience, just be aware that you need to take those surveys with a grain of salt. Anyone who's taken any sort of political science class knows very well that surveys are actually extremely complicated, and the HeroForge annual survey is just, it's not an overly complex survey. They put out a survey to HeroForge users, but frankly, the only people who are going to take the time to fill out that survey are going to be people who ardently use HeroForge, and those are people who are going to be more likely to want to purchase this kind of thing. When it comes to the general audience, yeah, this survey is not going to reflect that. Clearly, the survey really did not reflect that. Look what happened here. This reasoning also does line up with something that the CEO told YouTuber Derf when he reached out to HeroForge to request a statement.
And then there's of course also the business side to consider, wherein they would argue that this kind of monetization is necessary to expand the HeroForge team and make it bigger and better overall as a long-term benefit, right?
So, at the very least, there's that. I don't think that this is misleading. Even during the controversy, they were saying this, and frankly, it makes perfect sense. But yeah, regardless, I do think it is great that HeroForge have walked this decision back. It's clear also, based on this statement, that this whole debacle was on both HeroForge and Darrington Press. Apparently, Darrington Press showed HeroForge grace and understanding while they were navigating this controversy, implying that they did initially want something like the microtransactions in place. Now, again, that is complete speculation. I have no idea what prompted this exact solution to their whole problem of licensing fees, but it does seem like it was a two-pronged thing that both brands agreed to and went forward with. And to be quite frank, I'm still very confused as to why. Like, this statement does a lot to answer many questions, and I think it's a good statement and a good resolution to this whole story, but I'm still so confused as to why HeroForge decided to try this brand thing with Darrington specifically, and even more specifically with these Daggerheart races. Like, this video from Double Crit Failure goes over one of the dumbest parts of this controversy, which is that the Daggerheart species are not super unique fantasy concepts. Like, HeroForge has gotten in trouble before for using licensed D&D monsters. Like, for example, they made, like, an exact model of an Illithid, and yeah, WotC made a stink about that. But Darrington? I mean, frog people, mushroom people. I brought The Last of Us earlier for a reason. Mushroom people are a trope. Frog people? HeroForge actually already has frog people. And just look at this comparison.
Can you tell which of these two models is the official $7.99 ribbit and which was made using already existing free assets? Unless you're already very familiar with the HeroForge platform, I'm guessing probably not.
I understand that Daggerheart is a recent release. That's almost definitely the main motivation for both of these brands. But, I mean, God. Like, I understand wanting to offer some premium crossover stuff, give people, like, the big-name IPs. But Daggerheart is a brand-new IP that many of the HeroForge audience aren't going to care about as much as, like, something like Pathfinder Dungeons & Dragons. And on top of that, the stuff that they chose is just very generic fantasy. It was bound to cause this backlash. And I just... Man, it was a weird call. Now, finally, at the end here, I do want to say something that I am very concerned about, and again, a big warning sign for anyone who wants to get into the tabletop world or any sort of business world. When you need to monetize, like I do sponsorships, I do Patreon, I have ads on my videos. I'm sure there's plenty of things in my videos that annoy people, but like I need to eat. I need to have a roof over my head. You need to make money off your business. But if you try to make money in a way that really, really angers your consumers, it's going to make future monetization much more difficult. Like HeroForge here, they do say at the end of their statement that they are a small business with a small team. Like they also want to expand the business and make HeroForge bigger and better than ever, and part of that is offering this DLC. But because it came out of nowhere, because there was so little communication, because it was so grossly overpriced, it pissed off the community. And now in the future, if HeroForge needs to monetize, pay their employees or expand the business, it's going to be much harder. Like, I can imagine that the backlash around them hypothetically, like, raising subscription prices might be much worse now that this controversy has happened, even if they explain why they're doing it. Like, on the opposite end, you've got people like, for example, Dropout Studios, who I've talked plenty of crap about in the past, but frankly, Dropout Studios is a very well-regarded company. They're an LA-based studio. They're the guys that run Dimension 20, and they did have to increase monetization. They raised their subscription costs for new subscribers because, they had to in order to keep the doors open, in order to expand. And their community was so overwhelmingly for this decision that they even offered an upper subscription tier for people who wanted to pay them more for their content. HeroForge, honestly, at least up until this point, had a very similar reputation. The difference between Dropout and HeroForge is Dropout never had a big screw-up like this. They can raise their costs because they have that consumer trust. HeroForge lost trust here. And even if I think this statement was timely and well-written and great in terms of their solution, I still think that trust is going to be lost. So in the future, if HeroForge needs to monetize to expand, it's going to be much harder for them, which just shows that when you're in this kind of business, you get to screw up maybe once, man. And even then, even with one screw up, it can really, really hurt you. I do wish that this was handled more elegantly before they had to make a statement like this, but I'm glad this statement was made. I think that they did a lot to regain their rep, and I'm hoping the best for HeroForge. It looks like the community got what they wanted. I think the lesson that we should all take away from this is that, look, guys, bullying works, all right? Furthermore than that, I'm really glad this worked out because one little conflict of interest I need to disclose here. Next month, I'm going to be appearing in a charity event. We're going to be playing with a lot of awesome people. They haven't announced the cast yet, so I'm not going to say anything here. But the sponsors of that event are Darrington Press and HeroForge. And so, if this whole thing didn't resolve itself, it might have been really awkward when in a couple weeks, my face appears next to two very important logos from this video. Awkward! I'm glad it all worked out, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see an episode of Critical Failure where things unfortunately didn't all work out, check out this video where we talked about another dropout drama, the Gabe Hicks situation. It was a whole nightmare, linked up in the cards. But before you go, I think you might want to let me know if you were loyal to the tavern by leaving the comment, happy ending, to let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video. Oh, and of course, if you want to let me know you enjoyed the video, then please do the like and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content when it comes out. And finally, if you want to support us directly, then head over to our Patreon or buy our merch. Remember, stuff like that is what makes these videos possible. In essence, like, comment, subscribe, support. I will see you all next time. Farewell. Hey, we're going outside. Ow! Oh! Stop falling is no joke.